wish like you had a third term. If I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats, then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony. I'd be fine with that.
Barack Obama, he gave away the plan long ago, the master plan. And now Joe Biden is the guy on the other end of the phone. He's the sock puppet. As Alan from D.C. earlier said, the Obama coup. And then look out, because they're all lying. They lie to us about everything, every day. It's amazing, the lies. Michael Piercy and I this morning going through some of our materials, and I can't even tell you how many times I said, well, that's a lie, and that's a lie. And that's all. Our government lies to us like it's the Soviet Union. We have become very much like the Soviet Union in all too many ways. You know, again, Elena Gorakova and her Soviet tome, A Mountain of Crumbs, about existence under Soviet totalitarianism. The rules are simple. They lied to us. We know they're lying. They know we know they're lying, but they keep lying to us. And that's where we are in the United States of America today. And the news media, at least in the Soviet Union, they had a gun to their head. You know, Pravda and Izvestia and TASS, the Soviet news agencies, they were owned and operated by a corrupt totalitarian government. Our media gets rich, and they do it voluntarily. It's a new wrinkle on totalitarianism that we're experiencing here. Pretty remarkable stuff. Who's really in charge in the Biden White House? You know, it's not Joe Biden. You know, it's also not the vice president of the United States, a mockery of a sham. But while they're destroying America, and Barack Obama, you remember, he promised the fundamental transformation of America. You remember Barack Obama, and the crowd went wild. The fundamental transformation of America is what the radical left-wingers have always wanted.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
And the crowd went absolutely berserk. Yeah, let's destroy the place. Let's loot it. Let's carjack it. And he also told us that we better learn to speak Spanish because they've got a plan for the fundamental transformation of America.
Instead of worrying about whether immigrants can learn English, they'll learn English. You need to make sure your child can speak Spanish.
Yeah, that's probably good advice, don't you think? Yeah. Now, with that said, I've got a lot on the border on this awful Senate legislation that I want to get to and share with you. But before I do, I want to get to some Joe Biden is an idiot audio. Actually, the header here that Michael Piercy put on we call it the cuts sheet or the cut sheet. It's the audio actualities, the sound bites that we're going to use. And the header here is Biden needs a nursing home. Biden needs a nursing home. And I think that's polite. Somebody in a white coat should be chasing him down the road with a giant butterfly net because this guy doesn't know what day it is. Now let's go to Joe Biden. I mean, this is pretty amazing stuff. He said that he had just had a meeting with French President Francois Mitterrand, who had been dead for 28 years. But never mind that, because Joe Biden just had a meeting with him. I see dead people. Apparently, Mitterrand is a ghost wandering around the White House, rattling chains. Here is Joe Biden talking about right after he was elected. Now, I assume he's talking about elected as president, right? Not as dog catcher in Delaware 100 years ago. Just after he was elected in 2020. He became president January 20th, 2021, right? And here's Joe Biden having a series of faulty memories where he says that he was at a G7 meeting, which is NATO. It's not NATO. It's the G7. It includes Japan, for example, and the EU as an entity. And Japan, this is not NATO. So he got that wrong. And he's talking about America being back. And then he says that President Mitterrand of France, who has been dead since 1996, and he may be from Germany. Joe Biden is confused, had something crazy to say. Then Joe Biden goes off on a rant about apparently January 6th having nothing to do with what we're talking about, and says that 2 police officers were killed, which is not true. And here's Joe Biden proving that his brain, she's a no good.
You know, right after I was elected, I went to what they call a G7 meeting, all the NATO leaders.
What they call?
It was in the south of England.
Southern
I
England.
sat down and I said, "America's back." And Mitterrand from from France, looked at me and said, "You know, why? How long are you back for?"
What?
And I looked at him, and the Chancellor of Germany said, "What would you say, Mr. President?"
What?
If you picked up the paper tomorrow in the London Times, and the London Times said, 1,000 people break through the House of Commons, break down the doors, 2 bobbies are killed in order to stop the election of the Prime Minister. What would you say? I never thought about it from that perspective. What would we say if that happened in another democracy around the world?
Yeah, what would we say?
Well, the whole world watched. The whole world watched. And what's going on?
What are you talking about? Speech, campaign rally, Las Vegas, Nevada, telling a story about the G7, which he said is NATO. And he said it took place in England in 2021. And the French president was Macron and fromage. He's Macron and cheese, you see. And Macron was there, and he says Mitterrand. Now, again, the left-wingers at the Politico say it wasn't the first recent slip of the tongue by the 81-year-old U.S. president. In 2023, he accidentally said over 100 Americans have died from COVID-19 since the pandemic broke out. Sure. The White House later rectified with over 1 million. But never mind that. That's Politico. President Joe Biden confused Emmanuel Macron, the current French president, with Francois Mitterrand, who led France from 1981 to 1985 and died in 1996. That's very generous. Joe Biden's brain is broken, and he needs to leave. He is not with us. And, gosh, Joe Biden said, then making up a story about the German chancellor whose name didn't come to him either. And the German chancellor said, hey, what would you do if, you read in the Times of London that the parliament, he's talking January 6th, and the German, and I think if I were president of the United States, I'd say to the German chancellor, I don't know, what would you do? What would you do if Germany annexed the Sudeten? Get out of here. Achtung, schnell, mach, and send him on his way. But that's me. So Biden confuses French president with a guy who's been dead for 30 years in rambling anecdote, and just amazing. Now, the White House says that Joe Biden is skipping the Super Bowl interview, not because his brain is broken, but because, according to NBC fake news, bootlicks for the left, they say that it's part of a larger communication strategy. That's what NBC News is peddling. If you get your news from NBC News, you know a lot of stuff, but most of it's wrong. Again, on this Ronald Reagan birthday, today being Ronald Reagan's birthday, Ronald Reagan famously said it's not that Democrats don't know anything, it's just that so much of what they know is wrong. And the fakesters, the fraudsters at NBC News say, for the second year in a row, President Joe Biden is passing on the opportunity to sit down for a Super Bowl interview that could reach millions of Americans on Saturday. His poll numbers are tanking all over the place. A politician with a brain would do this. A move his advisors say is part of their larger communication strategy. They've got a strategy in place. Biden's aides believe many voters, already exhausted from a bruising political season, the voters are already exhausted from a bruising political season, simply want to tune into the game. That's always been true. And that seeing the president pop up while waiting for kickoff might turn them off. Sure, That's not true. That is a lie. That is made up. That's fake. That's a fraud. But some in his party worry about the decision to skip the opportunity to speak to millions of Americans. You see, either he doesn't have anything to say or his team is worried about what he might say or how he'd say it, said a veteran Democrat campaign operative. They have a veteran operative here, adding that Biden should have given a national address after recent retaliatory strikes in the Middle East. Regardless, it's a problem, said the anonymous Democrat operative, because they fear what the repercussions might be if they said those things on the record, because the left is a gang of miscreants and they'll destroy you. So Joe Biden's not doing it because his brain, she's a broke. She's a no good. Also, Joe Biden was asked about debating President Trump yesterday, and he said something incoherent and stupid, as you might expect, and that, oh, of course, Trump wants to debate me. He hasn't got anything else to do.
Donald Trump is ready to debate you right now. Do you accept?
He just said that on radio. What did he say to immediately?
Immediately?
Yes.
If I were him, I'd want to debate me too. You got nothing else to do.
And the reporters all giggle with him. Hey, President Trump says he wants to debate you. Is this the Slurpee in hand moment? You know, I mean, again, he's impervious to brain freeze. He could drink your Slurpee as fast as you want, or your smoothie, or whatever it is. And no brain freeze for him. He's found a way of defeating the brain freeze dilemma by having no brain. That's the guy. Well, of course he wanted to debate me because he's got nothing else to do. Honestly, that's as good as it gets. He's the president of the United States. And how many countries is he currently bombing? And why do we have war in the Middle East? And why is there war in Europe? And why do we need $60 billion for the war in Europe and a small fraction of that for our own border? $60 billion to secure the border of Ukraine, maybe $20 billion. Not too much for us. What a nitwit. What a nitwit this man is. Listen, I've got a lot to get to on the border and on the Senate bill, which is not a good bill, and everybody in their right mind should vote against it. And I want to share lots of good audio with you on that topic, on really two topics, but they're connected. And I will share that with you coming up. Lots of good stuff on the border, on the legislation, which all sane people should vote against, and we should demand that the Congress do their job and pass bills that serve the interests of the American people and stop all this folderol. I said folderol because I'm on the radio. It's hooey. It's also hooey. And I've got lots of great, amazing stuff coming up for you.
No more shenanigans, no more tomfoolery, no more ballyhoo.
Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. Now, the impeachment of our DHS secretary, such as he is, Alejandro Mayorkas, is an ongoing process in the House of Representatives, and it may or may not come to fruition in the House. There may be a vote this afternoon, this evening, in the 5 o'clock hour. And there may be a couple of Republicans that do the wrong thing in the House and do not vote to impeach him. He should be impeached, and we should start impeaching a bunch of these SOBs and holding somebody accountable in this corrupt city of Washington, D.C. Republican Congressman Mark Green is involved in the process on the committee and the subcommittee on the impeachment, and stating the obvious, Mayorkas, not done his job, not fulfilled his oath. He is not defending the United States of America. He is not on our side.
One of the things that became very clear, this is not a migration crisis caused by some event in Latin America or Central America. This is a catastrophe of our own creation.
A catastrophe of our own creation. It's not because of global warming. They like to say it's global warming, and the economy is so terrible. These are places where we go on vacation half the time. Congressman Green.
Secretary Mayorkas has been in the department many times, and he knows what the laws are, and he has created systems to subvert those laws.
And that should be impeachable, if not imprisonable. He should be in leg shackles. He should be taken, taken away in leg shackles like he's a Trump administration official or something. Congressman Tom Cole is a Republican as well, and he thinks that Mayorkas has not fulfilled the duties of the job.
Secretary Mayorkas' actions, both in his intentional refusal to enforce our laws and abandoning the confidence of Americans, require us to act. Secretary Mayorkas has refused to uphold his oath of office.
Has not fulfilled and upheld the oath of office, and I think that's pretty darn clear. Congressman Tom Emmer agrees that Mayorkas should go.
When it comes to the constitutional experts, the evidence is very clear that this secretary has not just a difference of policy, he's willfully refusing to enforce federal law that would secure our southern border. Okay. That is an impeachable offense.
That is an impeachable offense, willfully flouting the law as a cabinet secretary with a very important role right now in our society and our culture, but they're not on our side. They're so open-minded that their brains fell out long ago. Democrat Congressman Benny Thompson, he's a crook. He's not on the side of the United States of America.
Republicans cannot allege that Secretary Mayorkas has committed any particular crime, let alone a high crime and misdemeanor. They
just cited the crimes and violations of the Constitution, but pay no attention to that. And there are many more. And it's you should come out and say, oh, he hasn't done anything wrong. Democrats think that carjacking is fine, though, so can't really take their word for these things. Democrat Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon, those terrible Republicans. Now, these are the people that impeached Trump for making a phone call to Ukraine to ask about giving the Biden family millions of dollars. Trump was right, and he was impeached, and it was because of this crooked Alexander Vindman, who's a Ukrainian, who should have probably been tried for treason and hanged.
Isn't that what we have here today? A cynical, partisan impeachment divorced from real evidence of innocence or guilt, brought solely to score cheap political points. Now, it is outrageous.
No sense of irony, these people. Cynical. They impeached President Trump twice. There's the old what goes around comes around rule, but they never think it's going to affect them, do they? The Democrats they're not on the side of the United States. Well, we have a bit of breaking news. Out of the U.S. Court of Appeals, D.C. Circuit, the Trump lynching. The lynchings will continue until morale improves. The court has ruled in D.C. former U.S. President Donald Trump is not immune from prosecution in the 2020 federal election case. A federal appeals court ruled Tuesday. The U.S. Court of Appeals D.C. Circuit considered Trump's claim of presidential immunity from prosecution for his actions in office, including his alleged role to overturn his 2020 election loss. You can't challenge. Republicans cannot challenge elections. Only Democrats can challenge presidential elections. They challenged the 2000 election, took it all the way to the Supreme Court. They challenged the 2004 election. Then DNC Chair Terry McAuliffe still claims that the 2000 election was stolen. Right? So they challenged the first election of the 21st century, 2020. They challenged 2024. Then they won 2004. Then they won 2008, Barack Obama. They won 2012, Barack Obama. Then they lost 2016, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump. and they challenged that. And Hillary Clinton declared that it was stolen from her, right? And there are no charges anywhere. There are no charges. But you can't challenge the Democrats. They'll take it to court. They'll try to put you in prison because they're not liberals. They're the left. But the D.C. Circuit considered Trump's claim of presidential immunity, including his alleged role, 2020 election. The U.S. Supreme Court may eventually review the issue. I'm guessing that will definitely happen. That just happened minutes ago. That's a loss in court for President Trump. D.C. Circuit. And, the Democrats love packing the courts with their allies and the party faithful because they're corrupt, is the bottom line. From today's D.C. Appeals Court ruling, apparently Trump not entitled to the presumption of innocence. My friend Vince Colonnese posted on X, which some people would like to tell you used to be Twitter. You know how that is. And Vince Colonnese posting that from the opinion, at this stage of the prosecution, we assume that the allegations set forth in the indictment are true. And that's in the actual language, in the background from the D.C. Circuit Court, as pointed out by Vince Colonnese, who you will hear on WMAL later today from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. on his very excellent radio show. It's a great radio show. Smart guy, sense of humor. Great. Vince Colonnese. And so the court has ruled that Donald Trump is not, he's not immune just because he was president of the United States. And former President Trump did not concede the 2020 election. Okay. Has Hillary Clinton conceded because the 2016 because she said it was stolen last time I heard her talking about it? And the former governor of Virginia and former DNC chair Terry McAuliffe also claiming the 2000 election was stolen, and years afterward claiming the 2000 election was stolen, claiming the 2004 election was stolen. But that's okay because, so former President Trump did not concede the 2020 election, and in the ensuing months, he and his supporters made numerous attempts to challenge the results. That's what you're supposed to do. Democrats challenge the results of elections all the time. Who's the governor of Georgia anyway? Isn't Stacey Abrams still the governor of Georgia? Because she's been challenging elections ever since she was involved in elections. The District of Columbia federal grand jury indicted former President Trump on 4 criminal counts arising from the steps he allegedly took to change the outcome of the election. 1, conspiracy to defraud the United States by overturning the election results. Well, you're allowed to challenge the election results, just by the way. And whenever you challenge them, the challenge is always intended to overturn the election results. Ask Terry McAuliffe or Hillary Clinton. Ask the DNC. Ask Stacey Abrams. 2, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, i.e. the Congress's certification of the electoral vote. Sure, we got that going there. You betcha. 3, obstruction of and attempt to obstruct the certification of the electoral vote in violation of 18 U.S.C., that's the same thing twice. And 4, conspiracy against the rights of one or more person to vote and have their vote counted. You see, and it says, at this stage of the prosecution, we assume that the allegations set forth in the indictment are true. So the presumption of innocence is not afforded to the former president of the United States by the U.S. court in Washington, D.C. Isn't that great? It's great to be a Democrat, isn't it? So no presumption of innocence for you, which is one of the most fundamental rights every American has. That's why we broke away from the British crown. But never mind that. No, sir. Just amazing. President Trump's attorneys will challenge, of course, and hopefully the Supreme Court will intervene, and perhaps this Democrat D.C. Circuit Court will be overturned, and that would be good. Speaking of overturning, we have this awful legislation on Capitol Hill in the Senate that we're calling a border bill. It's not. An immigration bill. It's not. I got to tell you, just amazing stuff. You know, let's get back to the border here. And the mayhem, the anarchy across the country, New York, Chicago, and beyond, because of Democrat Party policies that have increased crime and mayhem and anarchy and chaos because they're the left. And that's what the left brings everywhere they go. Now let's go to soundbite number 9. We didn't get to it yesterday, but 60 Minutes used to be a news show on CBS. On Sunday, they had a show. They went to the border, and they were smiling and laughing it up with illegal aliens coming across our border illegally, including Chinese illegal aliens who are from China, and they're illegal aliens. And there are a great many illegal alien Chinese that have come into the country. In fiscal year 2021, we had 450 Chinese illegal aliens crossing our southern border. 450 in 2021. 2022, we had 2,176, about 5 times as many from 2021 when Joe Biden was inaugurated to 2022. And then it went from 2,176 in 2022 to 24,314 in 2023 Chinese illegal aliens. And 60 Minutes now, so far this year, we're only 1 month into the year. Well, we're 2 months. We're 5 weeks, I guess, into the year. We have 15,038 Chinese illegals. So we're on pace to be much, much larger than the 24,000 Chinese not bordering the United States to the south. Chinese illegal aliens, more than 24,000 last year, more than 15,000 so far this. I apologize, they used the fiscal year because, why would they use the same calendar the rest of the world uses? But 60 Minutes went to the southern border, and they were kind of titillated. They were giggling and having a nice time with the illegal alien Chinese. Oh, and by the way, they're using TikTok to coordinate their illegal entry. TikTok bringing them to the human smugglers, to the openings in the gate, telling them what to do on TikTok, which is a Chinese social media platform. 60 Minutes on Sunday.
We wondered how all of these migrants knew about this particular entryway into California. The answer was in their hands.
Oh, you learned on TikTok. Yeah.
TikTok is a social media platform created in China. The post we found had step-by-step instructions for hiring smugglers and detailed directions to that hole we visited.
Hiring smugglers, detailed. It's TikTok. It's the Chinese and the communists run TikTok, and it's infecting our children and being used by criminal gangs to smuggle illegal alien Chinese into the United States. Why would the communist Chinese want to smuggle tens of thousands of Chinese nationals into the United States of America illegally and scatter them around the country? Me worry? Well, why would that be a problem? That couldn't be a problem at all, could it? No, it couldn't. Just amazing. Now, let's go to New York, where illegal aliens have become a gigantic problem. What is the mayor says they have 170,000 illegal aliens or something like that? I'll get to that. Let's go to Tom Feely. Tom Feely was the head of ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, their removals director for New York. And he's not amused by anything that's going on. And he'd like to point out that, the governor, Joe Biden could just close our border today using executive orders. The idea that you need legislation to come out of the Senate, this ridiculous bill with more money for Ukraine than there is for our border, all of it's a lie. It's a lie. Joe Biden could just undo what he's done by executive order, and our border would be secured again. But he's filthy, and he's a liar, and he's not on our side. Here's Tom Feely, the former director of ICE removals in New York.
Listen, New York can solve this problem today. All they have to do is stop being a sanctuary city, take ICE's lawful detainer that's issued with a lawful administrative warrant and a lawful administrative order of removal, and get rid of this horrible green light law that New York State has that prohibits New York State working with ICE. ICE officers, I think Adams was saying, we're not prohibiting ICE from doing their job. Yes, you are. We can't run license plates. We can't run criminal histories. We can't do all the investigative things that we need to do to keep New York State because of this green light law. And the governor, she can take care of this today. Those three things, you get rid of that, New York State's a great place again.
They should be arrested for obstructing justice in not working with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They're obstructing justice. They're violating the law. They should be in handcuffs. They should be dragged away screaming. Tom Feely knows what he's talking about, the former head of ICE removals in New York.
Listen, if illegal aliens are going to outright attack and assault our police officers, if they have no respect for that, they can give two craps about you and I, Todd. That's just the reality. They don't care about the rule of law. New York State and the governor and the mayor of New York are trying to turn the other way, but New York is not safe anymore. And eventually people are going to wake up to the fact that that's the reality. We're not safe. There's too many illegal aliens here. We need to close the border, institute all the policies that Trump had that Biden took away on day one, and the country will be better. We don't need a new bill. We just need to enforce the law.
We don't need a new bill. We just need to enforce the law. And everybody that knows what they're talking about says the same thing. And everything else is a lie, quite honestly. The Customs and Border Protection announced that day before yesterday, that Sunday, we had a total of 6,600 plus encounters on our southern border. Under this idiotic new bill, you have to have 5,000 encounters for 7 consecutive days on average before Mayorkas would have the authority under emergency powers, which aren't needed, to close our border. That is a total scam. On Sunday alone, 160 Chinese nationals apprehended in the San Diego sector alone. 100 plus Chinese national encounters daily in recent weeks, to the point where even 60 Minutes went down and did a story on the border. Of course, they're in favor of the open borders, so that doesn't help a lot. And again, more than 24,000 Chinese nationals crossing illegally into the United States in 2023. Isn't that amazing? Your Democrat Party, they're not on our side. Boy, are they not on our side. We got some politics going on in Nevada today as well, which I will get to with you. And I've got a great Al Sharpton soundbite for you. I think he's a racist. He said, what did he say, Michael? He said something that if Donald Trump said it, everybody would call him a racist. All the leftists would call him, because they call everybody racist because they're racists. And it's the old Russian playbook accusing you of doing exactly what they're doing and being what they are. I've got more on the border and on this really terrible legislation currently in the Senate. And what do you hear what Senator Tim Scott had to say about it all? Great stuff.
Yeah, well, good luck with that one. But resist we much. We must and we will much about that be committed.
Precisely correct. The Reverend Al Sharpton, one of America's leading race baiters and charlatans, and the Democrats love him. NBC News hired him. He's a journalist because he's so articulate, so well-spoken. He is. Governor Kathy Hochul in New York joins Reverend Al Sharpton for a Black History Month event because he's a leader of people, which is not a good sign. Also, very upset because yesterday he was on MSDNC, where you might find the Reverend Al Sharpton, and he used the word invasion, talking about illegal alien criminals invading our country. The Reverend Al Sharpton is a racist and must be canceled.
You're getting migrants beating up policemen in the streets in New York. You're seeing an influx of migrants all over the country that frankly have people outraged. And couldn't there be some kind of public pressure put in the next couple of days in some of these senator states saying, why are you allowing this to continue? We're looking every day at the invasion of migrants, and they're playing a time game with politics on this?
They're playing a time game. Now, he's actually, believe it or not, this is how severely corrupt this man is. He's blaming Republicans for the invasion and says that you need to pressure Republican senators in the U.S. Senate to vote for this stupid, awful, corrupt bill that is being pushed. And, you know, that's what we need. The Republicans need to be threatened otherwise, you know, because he says you're seeing an influx of migrants all over the country that, frankly, have people outraged. And he called it an invasion. And here's the sleight of hand that the Democrats are now attempting to pull off, and they may be successful because, you know, information dominance, propaganda dominance, a corrupt media. They're going to try to blame the Republicans for, it's an election year, you know, for the illegal alien crime wave that the Democrats created. But they can pass the buck with the best of them, the Democrats can. And the Reverend Al Sharpton is such a fraud, such a liar, such a criminal. Where's Tawana Brawley? Somebody get Tawana Brawley on the horn. Where is she? We need Tawana. Just amazing. While bashing some Republicans for not getting on board with the Senate immigration bill unveiled over the weekend, MSDNC host Al Sharpton used the word invasion Monday in describing the border crisis, which some liberals found to be highly controversial. Yeah, but not for the Reverend Al, because, you know, the racists always have two different standards for everything. That is to say, the Democrats. Were it not for double standards, they'd have no standards at all, as you know.